Or you just don't need to touch it.
I wouldn't trust us either. Yeah, I would too. Right. You don't get the mute off or anything. I got it today though. Oh, I didn't even think you'd notice. I did notice. I didn't notice. The thing couldn't keep time. I don't know why. You should be good now. For 6 months. That thing was horrible, huh? Jeff Morgan? Are you kidding me? Oh, I was gonna say. He would be the one to win. He sells by a better Vespa.
He already has it.
Call the meeting of the Montours Area School Board for Tuesday, March 12th, 2019 at 7:10. Roll call, please.
So noted, Mr. President.
Thank you. Salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have approval of the reading the minutes for February 26, 2019?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any additions, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. All right.
All right. We are very excited this evening. We have individuals who are here for the Sharks and in the environmental group under the direction of Miss Kristen Alba.
Good evening. I'm going to stand sideways because I don't want to have my back to the crowd. My name's Mrs. Alba. I teach 4th grade at Lostock Valley Elementary. And I wanted to come and take this opportunity tonight to highlight a couple of my students. All of my students participate in what we call project-based learning. Before I start though, I want to take an opportunity to thank the board for taking on the trauma-informed initiative. Without having that initiative at the school, our kids wouldn't have the hope to take the risks that they do in school. So it plays right into being able to do project-based learning, because when our kids come to school wounded, they're unable to learn, and until we address those needs, then we can start the learning process. So our project-based learners have an opportunity to take risks in the classroom, come up with projects where they're using different types of things in the classroom. I was looking at your art poster in the lobby of the high school, and I saw a lot of the same skills, 21st century skills that we're trying to encourage also in the high school. Cooperation, teamwork. So, our project-based learning is a part of our new reading series, which I'm also grateful that you all had the foresight to take the opportunity to purchase that for the district. It has proven to be a very rigorous program. The kids are learning a great deal, and one of those aspects is our projects. So I'm going to give the rest of this to the kids because they're really the stars, and they will speak to what they love most about this. So our first presenters are Simon Dietrich and O.C. Angle. I'm going to assist them just so that you can see.
The lifespan of a mako shark is from 28 to 35 years. As with many other sharks, it appears this species is living longer as time progresses. The causes are unknown. Makos tend to look like a smaller version of the great white shark. The mako shark loves jumping out of the water. In fact, makos can jump 30 feet out of water. Scientists still aren't sure why they are doing this, but it's theorized that they are searching for prey over the water surface. Did you know that females are getting older at a quicker pace than males? The largest threat to this animal is many shark species are humans. Mako sharks live between 50 degrees north and 50 degrees south. Mako sharks can also be found in Australia, Chile, New Zealand, New Mexico, and New Mexico. Specimen caught off the fish in early 1981 reportedly weighed 2,200 pounds and weighing 13 feet. The longest mako caught on record was over 14 feet long cottonfish. Mako sharks live between. Top speed of a mako shark is 65 miles per hour. 65 miles per hour converted to 129.095 feet per second. 60 miles per hour converted to 11.990344311 meters per second. It's also converted to 155.366054 kilometers per second, and it's converted to 45.29823 kilometers per second. Mako sharks are faster than great white sharks and hammerhead sharks. If you put together the speeds of the great white and hammerhead sharks, they would just be just as fast as the mako sharks.
Okay, so talk to them a little bit about what you love about doing this.
I like just working with some of my friends and being very creative.
So Go ahead.
I like working and I like the research we get to do and spend time working with our friends.
So all of these things are just laid out on a table, all of the resources for this project, and they really have full autonomy on how to come up with things. The groups are selected by popsicle sticks, so they don't get to handpick who they work with. So it also generates an opportunity for them to work with people that they might not normally choose to work with, which we all know in the workplace we have to do those things. But they really find that this piece answers, it's like the tail end of our reading series per unit. We have a research component. It answers the essential question, and one of the things was the benefits and the adaptations of animals in this particular one. Great job. Really proud of you. The next unit that we did was how do we create community spirit? And one of the research topics was an environmental issue. So all of my students took an opportunity to research a significant environmental issue and how to attack that. Another set of our classmates talked about 15 different oil spills. And they stem all the way back from the 1800s. So it was a profound amount of research for them to do. It was probably like a 25-slide project that they did. We used technology to do some of the projects, but most of them like to do the hands-on stuff. Okay, girls, take it away.
Seahorses are dying from trash in the ocean. The most endangered seahorse is called the Cape seahorse. Please stop throwing trash into the ocean.
Males are always the ones that give birth. Depending on the species, seahorses can deliver from 5 to more than 1,000 babies at a time. Unfortunately, only about
5 out of every 1,000 survive to their adulthood. Fun fact, seahorses like to travel with their tails linked together.
Millions of seahorses are taken from the ocean each year. However, there are more than 40 species, and the IUCN lists as many as either threatened or endangered.
Anna and I decided to go with an animal that people don't think of very much. This is our solution called Pickup Step. On the side it has gloves where you can put on the gloves and pick up the trash and put it in the bag and zip it up.
This allows us to pick up trash found on the beach so it doesn't go into the ocean. And we have a water bottle right here, and we put a seahorse in it because lots of seahorses in the ocean get trapped in these water bottles.
Excellent job. What do you like most about it?
What I like most about doing these projects is creativity and actually working with people that it could be anyone that we can work with.
I like that it makes our brains think, and we get to work with partners that we won't like really choose.
They've learned a great deal in doing these projects. And as I said before, with the trauma-informed initiative, you have created an environment where kids can take risks. They're willing to take risks because they know that they're safe and that we generate such an opportunity for optimal learning. So thank you very much.
And we also have some celebrities with us tonight that we would like to, before you leave, don't leave quite yet, we would like to have Mr. T talk about his GOB winner, and we have certificates for them, and we would like them to come forward as well as Mr. Farrar. So I'll give you yours.
Each year, the elementary schools as well as middle school get
participates in the National Geographic Bee. Many have heard about the spelling bees, you know, on TV, but National Geographic for years has offered a geography bee. So it's eligible to students from schools across the country, private or public, grade 4 students. So the fourth graders in elementary schools are the first who are eligible to participate, and we continue it in half the years all the way through 8th grade in middle school. So we do a school level competition, and then that school level competition, there's one school champion per school. That student gets to take an online test against all other schools across the state, and then they narrow down to a select group who can qualify for the state competition. And if they're the state champion, they can go into the national competition. So I warn my fourth graders, you're up against fourth graders to eighth graders, so rare a fourth grader competes to go to Harrisburg for the state level, but you never know. A couple more years down the road, and I know our middle schooler, the crowd knows exactly what that means. You get to eventually go to Harrisburg hopefully and compete. So Lighters champion for this year was Aiden Jackson. Valley's champion is Austin Davidson. Any words for the board? They're good students, they're hard workers. I know they were very proud. They both, I have to tell you, they both went through a very rigorous competition. I think both in the finalists, and they're tough questions. Adults sitting on the side of these and go, I wouldn't know. And I was a social studies teacher, so some things I didn't know. So it was going along, and they finally narrowed down to get one champion. But they both in the final round. It was something around the narrow of getting down where the one finalist got the correct answer and the one got it incorrect. But they had a tough competition. It was somewhere around 12 rounds each. So they got it was tough. So they did a great job. Congratulations.
And the middle school winner was Christian Smith. Christian qualified for the state competition. He'll be competing March 29th at the museum, the State Museum in Harrisburg. So congratulations. I don't have any pool gold medals. You already received it, but you might want to talk to Mr. Jones. Let him know you want gold. Mr. Jones, a shout out to him. He does a lot of work to put this together and get the kids ready. And it's really a whole school event when we have it. So congratulations. Happy to see Big Sister made it in.
So does anyone on the school board happen to know the capital of Uzbekistan? Oh, no. Anyone in the audience?
There you go.
Nope.
Google.
These are for our first presenters, Faith Berwanger. Simon Beecher.
go to that. Yes, sir.
If you would like to go, please, we'll take a second to let you go.
We won't take offense to
I guess that's a good thing.
that. Thank you all.
No, he's still the champion. He's gonna leave us 6 minutes. Move on.
All right, we're going to move forward with public comment. If you have a comment, come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Jack Callahan, 113 R Street, Mattersville, PA. I want to say I was in one of the things that we had spelling bees back when I was in school, and I misspelled my first word because I didn't want to stand up there. They asked me to spell booth, and I spelled it B-O-T-H, so that was my one and done, and the only time I was in. I'm up here to see if there's been any movement on that Rootenham out to where it should be, not pushed in the corner where it is. The Rootenham, the Feast of the Indian. And then I'd like to say I met a couple of the parents, grandparents over there I met a lady from Troy that comes down to see her grandson play. And I met a man that, he's from Mattersville, he has his pass. Well, a lady from Troy, I'd like to see by next year to have something in place with the passes where they wouldn't, because it's this guy, the gentleman, the grandfather of one of the players, he was parked down by the football field. And I walked up with him and he told me, he says, geez, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Well, I told his son, not the basketball player, the son of the basketball player. And he said, yeah, he'll help his dad if he needs it, you know. So it's a little bit hard for people to get over there to get those passes if the schools leave it out and whatever. If there could be something in the paper or something to explain to some of these people how they get them. If I see anybody, I don't know who's from Mattersville and who isn't, but I mean, I'd like to see that straightened out by next year, and maybe something on the ticket booths saying how these people can get these 65 passes, because I don't think anybody's going to use them in any shape or form, because everybody I went, you know, they don't talk about them, they're glad they have them, and that's it. So you know, I'd like to see something done, at least in fact, for next year, if it could be done. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah. State your name, your address.
Stephanie Lancaster, 170 Williamsport, Pennsylvania. So sorry, I'm trying to get over laryngitis. I was advised earlier, before the summer started, that you had to be hired and be a substitute before you could be hired on as a full-time custodian. So I obtained my clearances and started the summer work. At the start of the school year, there was a full-time position available, which I was passed over because I didn't have the experience as a commercial cleaning person, you know, for the commercial cleaning. And I understand that, so I stayed on as a substitute, which I was covering 3 to 4 times a week, every week, even though I was told it would probably be like 1 or twice at most. And this was between all 4 schools. Sometimes it was even 2 schools per night. Excuse me. I've been commended personally by my lead, by the teachers I've cleaned for, as well as by other teachers, for the quality and quantity of work that I do and for my work ethics. And I say that because I also hold another job, because I needed to keep that job until I would hopefully get the full-time job here. So I'd like to make a formal request that before someone else is considered for the full-time custodial position, that an inquiry is done as to why I was not hired for it. closing, I hope that I have shown you how much I want the position by not only going in every night that I was called in and asked to cover, but for not having any tickets submitted by any of the teachers while I was still working my other job, and just by coming in here tonight. Thank you.
Anybody else? Public comment?
Mr. Conkle.
Yes.
We should probably, submit the amendment to the agenda in case there's public comment on that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to
Okay.
add,
We have a supplemental.
add a supplemental, yes.
So Ron's second. Any questions on the supplemental? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Ron. Business manager's report.
You received copies of the treasurer's report for the period ending February 28, 2019, the general fund, cafeteria fund, and capital project fund. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval.
Move to approve.
Second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
You received a copy of a budgetary transfer for board awareness. This is a transfer within the same function, so no vote is required for this evening. For the bills, you have received copies of the listing of invoices for the general fund and cafeteria fund for the period ending March 12, 2019. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval and payment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
The refrigeration services company, I see we have 2 checks for repairs and maintenance. I would imagine that's for refrigeration. Do we have a problem with our refrigeration at one of the schools? Maybe a walk-in cooler or something?
What code was on that? Well, before you dig into this, we call them for any milk cooler goes down in the kitchen, any freezer that goes down, or if we have issues. Like we had the IT room was overheating, they came back and just recharged that system. That's what they do for us anyway.
Well, my question was, what's
What
that?
check number?
Check number 56-284 and 56-366. And my question wasn't that we had anything done, evidently it was needed. My question was, is this for a reoccurring problem where something is reaching its lifespan?
I think it was high school, maybe. I think it was our units here. I have to pull the bill, but
There's so, I've had them here for so many items.
If there are units here at the high school, wouldn't they be under warning?
They are not.
I'd have to pull the actual, but they're not cafeteria bills.
Yeah, I knew there wasn't cafeteria bills.
You're probably seeing, it was probably McCall. I just had 2 units fixed at McCall within the last 2 months.
Yeah.
That's probably what you're seeing. And yes, those units are from 2010. We had one that needed recharged, and the other one had a motor go bad and had to pull it apart. That was 2 units. Probably, I don't know what the checks were, but that was probably around $2 grand.
There was a 1503
Yeah,
and a
that's it.
769.
That's it. Yep, the one was for the stage unit and one was for room 176 off the library.
And the other question I have is, every month we get checks to approve for professional tech services. Now, it's easy to understand when a check's for UPMC, professional tech services, or when it's for an attorney, professional tech services. But when it's individual people, that it says professional tech services, and actually, this month we had 36 of them. I'm curious why we can't, I'll give you an example. 56-337 was Central Susquehanna IU, and we explained why or what that bill was for. Professional tech services doesn't tell the board anything. When it's individual people, we have no idea what that money's being spent for. If there could be an extension out on it to give us an idea of what that is. So, I mean, I didn't go in and ask for 36 invoices to find out. When this report's made up, if an extension could be put out here to give us an idea what those tech services are.
It's a standard report, so it doesn't, like, these are, when you put the account codes in, these are the descriptions that come up with those account codes.
That still isn't telling us what those checks are for. And I know you don't want me coming in there and asking for 36 invoices.
You can review the whole stack of invoices. I can pull them for you. I'm going to tell you a lot of them are for refereeing.
But, and that would save so much if it was just extended out referee service.
Well, and that's a good point. And as we look further with software, for the financial software in the future, that can be something we look for in financial software so that we can do that.
When you're doing the check, when the checks are being done and entered into the software, you mean you can't hand type in?
These are all populated. So it goes with the account code. So it's not that simple. You might look at it and think that it's that simple, but it's not as simple as what I wish it was.
Somebody's typing in the name.
Yes, we do put that in.
And while you're typing in the name, you can't extend out what?
Come in, I'll show you.
I'll be happy to.
Okay. It's not as easy. Like that would be great if we could. It would take a lot more time because you're going to have to type in a lot more information. So you're going to have to consider the time and the labor. But the software, these are set up with different things automatically so they fill in based on the account code that you're using for that purchase.
That doesn't explain why there is some that have an extension.
Because they're for more than one invoice item. They have different account codes for the invoice. So, for an example, the check 56337.
Yep.
When that bill was entered, it is part of that is being paid. Say 1,000 of it's for one account code, and the other $4,652 is for another account code. I'm just saying numbers, but it's because it's for two different account codes. That's why there's two different descriptions. Does that make a little bit more sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, what doesn't make sense is we still don't know what 36 checks are for because professional tech services doesn't tell us a thing.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay.
Like I said, if you come in, I'll show you exactly how it works, so then you can understand why there isn't more detail there. But that's how they're pre-populated. So.
That's all.
Anybody else? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Albert.
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel.
Yes.
Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Dr. Mathers.
Yes.
Mr. Schimmel.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes.
Mr. Heath here this evening, but I did want to announce that I did speak with Mr. Heath this afternoon from the Legion, and the Legion is going to be donating $1,100 to the library at Loyalsock Valley to replace the rest of the books that were lost this fall. The Legion has also provided the district and students within our district several other donations throughout the year. So again, I just want to thank them for all that they do for us.
And the staff doesn't know that because Brandy just found out at the end of the day, and I didn't get a chance to tell them
Yeah.
that this afternoon. Sorry, Brandy.
To piggyback off of that, for the superintendent's report, we received notification that we have been awarded 2 grants through the First Community Foundation. The first one is for $21,000 roughly, and that will be for additional STEM equipment, which is a new program within the district. It will be for the middle school, and I appreciate those who wrote that grant, Mrs. Altabrando and Mrs. Beadle. They did a phenomenal job. This is the second grant that they've been able to accomplish getting for the district and for that program. And the second grant was for $28,000 and change for a math grant that will provide 90 computers and math software for algebra. And that would be for students in the middle school as well as the high school. And those teachers who wrote that were Erin Bennett, Tara Krebs, and Mrs. Jennifer Bernisen. So thanks to them as well. We would not have been able to get almost $50,000 without their help.
Sure, absolutely.
May I please have a motion on G1 through G6?
Move to approve?
Second. Any questions?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
On G5, Christina, who makes the referrals?
I think that's.
I want, not what person does, but the title of the person that makes the referral.
It could be the guidance counselor, it could be the principal, it could be other mental health providers, it could be a number of people in different positions, let me say it that way.
And who can request treatment?
I believe anybody can request treatment.
Including parents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And on G6, what debt collection does that involve?
I'll let you speak to that one.
It's primarily for the debt collection of the cafeteria accounts. We have seen that dramatically increase in the last 6 months. So we have decided to move forward with taking some action, but it can also be used for any student debt collection, whether it be books, iPads, anything, we can use it for that.
And if I'm reading it right, Brandy, there's absolutely no cost to the district for collection unless the district would decide to file civil or criminal complaints because of non-payment, correct?
We do not have any, but these get charged to the parent or the person, so it doesn't, we don't pay for it.
But if it goes to court, the way I'm reading it, the courts do not give the district money for a lawyer to fight, so.
We would have those expenses.
That's what I'm saying. If it goes to court, we would have expenses. If we choose not to go to court, we wouldn't have any expenses for trying to make these collections, correct?
I have a question about the calendar. That's still on, it's still.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yep.
on G1.
Yep.
Does this have a philosophical problem with having makeup days after the end of the school year, at the end of the school year? And I know I've spoken to different people and, you know, I understand that we had mentioned, Mr. Schimmel mentioned maybe using a day of the Easter vacation as an additional, snow day, but that's vacation for a lot of families, and I can understand not wanting to touch that. So I would ask to consider, Martin Luther King Day as a snow day, and it would only be used really if we missed a day of school in those first 2 weeks of January. And that would still leave us then 2 snow days for January and February and March. So we wouldn't have students going to school after graduation. Comments, anybody? Nope.
I agree with Dottie, just because I think it's harder, or, I don't know, I don't wanna say harder. I think at the end of the school year, when days are added on, it's almost like a wasted day. Anyway, I'd rather have it.
The one thing that you have to consider is that this year we have 182 student days. Next year we have 181 days. If we get into a situation where we need more days, you can always say, we're just not going to make them up and we'll be like everybody else with 180 days. I gave my word to a young man last year that we would not be in school. If the board wishes to change that, the board can change that, but I'm not going back on my word for that.
Right. For the Martin Luther King, right.
My personal opinion, I don't think that's a day that should be touched.
Well, it's typically been used as a snow makeup day.
Typically doesn't make it right though, Dolly.
Well, I understand, but, you know, then we should have the calendar so that we have enough snow days in there so students aren't coming after finals and, graduation.
They wouldn't be coming after finals though.
Well, after graduation.
The potential could be that there would be students coming in after graduation, yes. But finals would always be prior to graduation with that. This was vetted out by our teachers. I sat with the letter teachers last night and asked what their opinions were. It all depends on where your holidays fall within the year. Every calendar is going to look different every year based on where can you fit these things back in. We want to listen to our staff. They gave us great feedback on please don't have a day and then you have to work extra in the evening for 2 days. Please don't do the swap day issues. We accommodated that. I do try as much as possible to listen to their input about all of those things. We'll do whatever the board wishes for us to do, but just know that this is a community calendar that we have all reviewed in such a manner that we put it together in this way. And you know what, Dottie, you're right. Like I said to you in my email, we're always fighting against Mother Nature. No one knows what she's going to do and where she's going to throw things.
And there are 5 snow makeup days built in.
But both, the 3 of them are before Christmas, in the Christmas break, so that would be November and December.
Right.
And when most of our snow typically comes January.
But as we explained the last time too, in our district,
we did miss November 16th.
Yes, we missed November the 16th this year, but on average in our district, we've had flooding days, and they are typically before the end of December, and that is on an average, it's every other year going back 14 years. Then we also can look at the fact that on average from the 70s forward, we've had typically 4 snow days. I will not say that that's been straight up, you know, God-given, here you go, because 93, 94, I think blew everyone out of the water. And 96, yes, you're right. So again, it's completely up to Mother Nature. We do our best so that parents can schedule and know ahead of time that they're not making things up over holidays. That was a resounding no, please do not do that to us when I talk to the staff. But whatever you choose to do, we'll do whatever you would like for us to do.
There is one other option.
What's the other option?
December 2nd, have school and move put another snow day in.
Not happening.
can't mess with hunting.
Well, here's the thing. It's
It's a paid
gonna,
holiday, Ron.
Yeah.
It's a holiday, right?
you can't move that holiday?
It's in the contract.
It's a contract.
For the
Okay.
support staff
Yeah.
that way too.
And
The
that's
only danger there too, Mr. Snell, is that we don't know that's gonna pass. I mean, it's likely.
Oh, it's gonna pass.
But, you never know.
Yeah, no, but.
You never know.
I still think that I would be the one who shot during that season should we do that.
It's hard to satisfy
what? You're gonna
everyone.
get shot.
I was just gonna say that, Dottie, you
But-
can't please everybody.
Yeah, I talked to some teachers too that didn't want it added to the end of the school year. They don't want their Easter holiday, but they also don't want it added to the end because the kids are gone by then. You know, the end of the school year plays are done, finals, well, you can move the finals around, cause you'll know that by the end. But,
That's
So the
why
ul-
we do our very best to
So
get
the
some
only
guidance.
alternative is the Easter holiday.
or Martin Luther King Day, but we had a student request not to have school on that day.
You got a board member requesting it too. Me.
No.
Anybody else? Okay, so we're gonna vote, G1 to G6. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
May I please have a motion for P1 through P4?
Move to approve?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
May I please have a motion for T1?
Move to approve?
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
And that should be all for this evening. Thank
Okay.
you.
Let's go to the reports.
None.
Okay. Community reports. PSBA.
Just a reminder, we have our meeting, sectional meeting tomorrow night, here at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Policy.
No report.
IU bill is in Jamaica somewhere. RCTC, Mr. Logan's not here. Memorial Gardens, no report. Budget, she's not here. Building and grounds, Mr. Albert.
And nothing.
Alright, and Dave, Tourism Foundation.
You know, we walked through these committee reports so fast,
Sorry.
but could I indulge you if putting someone on the spot who might be able to tell us some goings on with the Montoursville Foundation? Mr. Albert, would you like to tell us how things are looking for it, for the shindig at the end of the month?
Yes, you can ask.
Now you put it on the spot.
That's right. We have a meeting coming up on Thursday. That coincides with the day when we were looking to get reservations back. I did see an email in my box today that said reservations are coming in slowly. So I think the board president was asking individuals to make phone calls to those that may have been asked to be included in the reservation or the invitation list. I sense from what I'm reading is we really are going to look to open it up to the public so that we'd like the place to be full, and right now it's not, happening. I know this is the first year for the event, so it's kind of trying to get our name out there a little bit. We've had responses, some items for silent auction. It's going to be a nice event, and we just need to get people there. I think initially we didn't want to just have a limited invitation, but we were concerned because our venue has a limited space. So we tried to pick a date that was early enough so if we see that there's openings, we can get the word out in the community. So maybe Mr. Ruther would include this in his notes, and we could get it out into the community. The foundation event, is ongoing, and if interested, you can contact, go on the website, or contact our, foundation board president, Mr. Mike Musto, care of the Jersey Shore State Bank. Don't mention my name. Although my number's in the phone book, you can call, and I'll be glad to point you in the right direction. So certainly if any, I believe all the board members were invited, so we're hopeful that most, if not all, can attend. If anyone was overlooked, I think the administration was included, so.
We'll be there.
But if you have some peers that you'd like to, make an invite to, please do that, because we feel there'll be space, and I'll be happy to give up my seat and my wife's. We'll go down into the basement, have someone else sit up there. We can still get in on the silent auction. So. But I do know that there are several baskets that have been prepared by different clubs within the school. I've seen some of those. I think they are really neat. The jazz band is going to be performing, and our speaker will be Mr. King, who's going to give us a history of the school district. And I think most of you have heard Mr. King speak, and he's a wonderful historian and a gifted speaker. So I believe the evening is going to be well worth your time.
Thank you, Dale. Dale joined one of the many people that, I don't want to say come out of the woodworks, but they had a recruitment effort last summer for the foundation, and it blossomed from 2 or 3 people to now at least a dozen, if not more, have joined. So it's coming back to life, and we hope this is a successful event. So.
We are still looking for additional volunteers on the board, so if you or if you know of anyone, please have them profess their interest to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the public comment.
Before we go to public comment, I have a concern. And my concern is, looking at this budget calendar, we've actually, Mr. President, you've actually made the budget committee and all committees as a whole to be done at work sessions. To date, we have learned little to nothing about where the budget's going. Most school districts in Pennsylvania have already or are voting on their proposed budgets. We haven't got any information or even talked about a budget to any extent at all. And the next meeting, the first draft of a proposed final budget will be given to us. I'm concerned that I'm concerned we're not taking this serious enough. When you have $39 to $40 million that you're dealing with, I think that we should have been discussing items with the budget all along. I know 2 years ago, we started budget talks early, and all board members were involved, and we was informed every step of the way about the budget. That's my concerns.
Okay. Anybody else? Brandy's comment, I believe, last time was there's really no new information. Am I correct? We know we're not gonna, pretty much raise, we've agreed not to go above the index. So we missed a meeting in February. So that's just fine. 2 cents.
Well, we could be looking at line items right now.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments?
I mean, basically all we got is numbers for mandated, expenditures and numbers for, expected revenue, and that's basically all we've gotten so far.
Well, when I look at the summary report at the beginning of every month, I look across all those categories, and I look down at the bottom of the sums, and I see percentages, used to date, I see balances, and I'm looking at on a quantitative and qualitative basis as to where do we stand. Last year I asked Brandy about when are we going to be hitting 100% on some of these? Do some of these top out sooner or later? Those kind of questions, and I use this as a roadmap to see where we're going myself. If there's specific line items, Ron, you know how to get a hold of it. I mean, you.
No, all line items need to be looked at and
Brandy,
by
how many
all
line
board
items
members.
does the budget have? About 3,000 or 4,000 or 10,000? We want to look at line items where we can do something about. There's some we can do nothing about. And there's some
I agree. There's mandated.
Well, then we can't look at all of them. We have to be strategic about which ones we might want to be looking at. And
If you have
I'll put it this way, we need to look at line items we have control over. Some line items we don't have control over, but the ones we do have control over, we should look at.
you know how to get a hold of it. I mean, if there's items that are concerned to you, yeah, you should. As far as taking it seriously, that's just not a fair comment. It's not a right comment. This is one of the most serious things I do in my life. So just because you don't see me raising a fuss over it doesn't mean I don't take it seriously. So I don't think that's the right thing to say.
I'm saying we should take it seriously.
And you can't judge where my heart is on the issue. That's what you're doing.
No, I'm not judging
I
anybody.
just told you this is one of the most serious
I'm not judging
things.
anybody.
You just did. You said we should take it seriously.
We should.
You should. Speak for yourself.
We all
Don't
should.
speak for me. Do not speak for me.
I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying we all should, as a board,
Okay.
take it seriously.
Clearly you don't understand English language.
Well, I'm glad you can let me know that I don't understand English language. I think I understand it just as well as you do, Mr. Schimmel.
You just told me that you said we should take this seriously. I told you don't speak for me. You said you're not speaking for me. No, which is it?
I'm speaking for the board as a whole, that we should take this seriously.
All right, we're gonna proceed to public comment. Unless anybody other board members have a comment. All right, public comment. 3 minutes, state your name.
Yep. Jack Callahan, First Street, Tourism. I don't know if I heard this right. I don't think our school does it, but the school up the road, somebody says they bring in substitute teachers just for the sake of like 6 of them. They're having that many absentee teachers up the road. Now, we don't bring in any substitute teachers to have them here at the school. At the thing, we do that?
Yes, we do, and we're short every day.
No, but I mean, you bring them in on the spot before these, before they call the teacher that's 6 called in?
No.
No, but I thought that's what they meant when some guys were
That's
talking.
not what they mean, no, Jack.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
The 6.
Every district is short subs. Today
Yeah.
we were short 7 in the middle school. Today, how many were we short? 3 in the elementary.
Seven total.
7
Two middle
total today,
school, 3 there.
between those.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I heard a couple of
Yes.
guys speaking. They thought,
So we had more absences than that, and some of them got teacher replacements as substitutes or guest teachers.
Yeah.
But we had classrooms that were left open.
well, then I misunderstood who was talking, because they said they thought 6 was a little bit too much teachers to bring in on the spot.
Not at all.
No, but I thought the way they talked, they had these teachers there no matter if they used them or not. They
No,
don't. Okay.
that's incorrect.
Okay,
So I'm
yep.
glad we could clear that up for you.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that. When I went to school, the teachers were never sick. We got a substitute, all they would do would come in and that was it, you know, and that was very unlikely. Every once in a while we got a substitute, but, the teachers never missed back then.
Anybody else, public comment? All right, board members, administration?
I have a question for Randy, and I'm not expecting any answer today. Maybe you could, have it ready for the next meeting. I was just curious about our driver's ed and what our enrollment is. Is it doing well? And is it
Sent out
successful?
an update a couple months ago, but we haven't had, I don't know if he sent out, did he send out?
He did.
The enrollment? I haven't heard of a lot coming in, but I'll check and see how many more we have coming in. And then I'll find that update and I'll just update it for you and send it out in an email.
Okay, good, thanks.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.